Hi there everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to share some Simon Says Stamp special holiday release products with you and a couple of brand new cards. We have a slimline style card and an A2 size card. We're going to start with the slimline card, and this features the brand new Christmas foliage stencils. Layering stencils, you guys. If you have seen any of my videos, you guys know I love layering stencils. So we are using the new Sprout and Field FAIRWAY Sprout and FAIRWAY Pawsitively saturated inks from Simon Says Stamp. I am using the Waffle Flower stencil mat. Don't worry about that pink ink. I stained my mat. I promise it's clean. And the Simon Says Stamp small blending brush. I chose to use the small blending brush as it gives me a little bit more control. So I went in with the Sprout color first, then we're going to shade with a little bit darker tone. This is going to give a two-tone look to these leaves. And it may look a little blotchy going on, but as the ink dries, it is going to smooth out and be super beautiful. We are doing a really fun technique with this stencil set. We're going to get the ink down first. We're going to do my favorite stenciling kind of technique, background technique, where we stamp with a text stamp over the top, and then the special technique, which I'll share here in a bit. Now, I wanted to make sure I got everything lined up perfectly. In this stencil set, you get the leaves, the first set of leaves, the florals, and another leaf. So after I stenciled my first stencil, and then the final stencil, pardon me, has everything on it. So if you wanted to maybe just do an all over background of some sort, or whatever you want to do with that, I'm going to use that stencil as a guide when lining up my next two stencils so that I make sure everything is lined up exactly where I need it. Now for this, I'm using Blush and Pucker Pawsitively saturated inks. I am doing the blush color first. It's going to be a much lighter color, and I'm really only applying that to the largest poinsettias in the background. And then we're going to take Pucker, and that's going to fill in like all the little berries. That's going to add some shading to our flowers, as well as color in any small flowers. So now I'm going to go in with this and fill in anything I didn't color before. Again, I'm using the small blending brush as I feel like it gives a lot more control in these smaller spaces. I started on not a white piece of cardstock either. If you guys have followed any of my stenciling videos, you know my favorite color to stencil on currently is Lawn Fawn Fog Gray cardstock or Simon Says Stamp Fog Gray cardstock. They are both a very light gray. This is the Lawn Fawn Fog Gray cardstock. Almost has kind of a beigey tint to it maybe. Oh my goodness, you guys, look how beautiful this is looking. I love it. So again, we're going to take our full stencil, we're going to line it up with all of the work we've done before, and then we're going to take our final layering stencil, which are the remaining greenery pieces, and then I'm just going to carefully remove that previous stencil, and now we're going to use Field ink. So this is again another brand new Pawsitively saturated ink from Simon Says Stamp. Fantastic green colors this time, you guys. So good. 15 brand new colors in this November release. Definitely fills in some of those spaces in our collection. And there is our background. So beautiful. Now that we have all of our background, I am going to place this in my MISTI. And we're going to have to kind of piece together our background stamp. I am using the hand-lettered holiday stamp from Simon Says Stamp. This was part of the Stamptember 2021 release, and we're going to ink it up with my favorite Hero Arts Unicorn White pigment ink and stamp text right over the background. Because this is a slimline panel that measures 3.5 by 8.5 inches, it is not going to fill in the entire thing. Also, do not be worried about how kind of quote-unquote dark that white ink looks right now. It will fade a bit as it dries. So once we have the first stamping done, I am simply going to move my panel up a little bit. There's not a ton of wiggle room. I know I'm a little out of frame on the camera. I'm zoomed in a little too close, but there's not a ton of room, but there is enough. So covering up just the last maybe couple of rows of what I stamped, I'm going to use Post-it tape. You could use a bigger sheet. I was impatient and didn't want to go look for one, so I just used my Post-it tape. I'm going to move my stamp down. We're going to ink it back up again, and we're going to fill in the rest of the space down there that we didn't stamp before. By masking it off, we're not going to have any overlap. And there is our beautiful stenciled and text background. Now this is gorgeous as is. You can totally use it just like this. You can add your sentiments, any additional embellishment, and you're good to go. I thought though it would be really fun today to take that final stencil from the set, and we are going to do a fun technique. Now I have done like some glitz glitter gel and iridescent over the top. That's going to give it a glittery look. That's a fun look. But I really thought it would be fun to take the Tim Holtz Crackle Holiday Icicle Medium. This is the Crackle paste, and we're going to apply it over this stencil. Now I've not tried this before, and it's probably not a quote-unquote recommended use, but hey, I thought, why not? Let's try it. And I have to tell you, I absolutely love the results. So I have my Crackle medium. I have a Tim Holtz palette knife. I think one that maybe has a smaller tip to it is going to work a little bit better. And we are going to kind of glob on this Crackle paste. One thing about the Crackle paste is the thicker you apply it, the more it's going to crack. And I only want the crackling to be on the stenciled part of this. That's why I chose to use the stencil and not just apply it all over the background or in spots on the background. Now I noticed my stencil shifted a little, so I'm going to carefully place it back where it goes. So you can see I'm being real generous with my Crackle paste, but I still have tons left when I'm done, I promise. I'm working fairly quickly, because when I am done applying the Crackle paste all over this, I need to peel that stencil up. I need to save whatever Crackle paste is on top of the stencil that I can, and then I need to get that sucker washed right away, because you don't want the Crackle paste drying to it and ruining your stencil. I used a little warm water. I didn't even have to use any soap or anything like that to get the Crackle paste off. So I'm going to peel that up. You can see that there's still some Crackle paste right on the stencil. Off camera, I did kind of scrape some of that off and put it back in the container. Now I need this to sit and dry, and it is going to have to sit and dry for a little bit. I probably let mine dry for an hour or so. I actually did the other card that's in this video in between this time. And so we're kind of skipping ahead with the magic of video today. You can see the great crackling over there on the left side of your screen. So all of the stencil area has some awesome like glazy crackle to it. Oh my goodness, I absolutely love this, and I hope you guys will try this if you have that icicle Crackle paste, because it's super duper fun. Now I die cut this Merry Christmas script die from Simon Says Stamp 4 times. 3 times from smooth white cardstock, which I'm stacking one on top of another, and a 4th time from the gold mirror cardstock. I love this cardstock from Simon Says Stamp in both silver and gold, and I have used it so many times. It is fantastic for all of your holiday card making and beyond. I'm using a nice liquid glue here to glue each of these one on top of another. By doing that, it's going to first give the metallic or the mirror, pardon me, cardstock a little bit more stability, but it's also going to pop up my sentiment off of that background. I want my sentiments to really show up off of that background and not kind of just blend into it. And I wanted them to be gold, and because I'm going to be adding some other little gold accents to this slimline style card. Now in between each layer here, I am going to press them together. A little tip for that is I use acrylic blocks. I don't use them for stamping hardly at all anymore, but I use my acrylic blocks for holding things flat, and it also works great as a stamp press. So as I get each layer glued one on top of another, I'm just going to kind of use my acrylic block to press that down. I noticed one wasn't lined up quite right, so before the glue dries, I am going to kind of adjust that and move that, use my tweezers to remove a little piece of inside of a letter. I think there's a lot of loops here, so a lot of little inside stick. They pop right out. And then let's add that last layer on. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. The remaining part of our sentiment today is going to come from the brand new Winter Flower stamp set. This is a fantastic, beautiful, brand new 6x8 stamp set. It of course has a gorgeous winter flower on it, but it has lots of really amazing sentiments. I absolutely love the font that Simon Says Stamp is using for this. There is even a to and a from in this, which would make it fantastic for tags, which you guys know I love to make. So this is a really, really amazing stamp set. There is a coordinating die for the floral if you're interested. And then once I have my sentiment, that scripty Merry Christmas down, I'm going to glue that in place. And then I'm going to kind of fill the center of my large poinsettias with some metallic gems. I'm doing a little trio there in the center. These are pretty pink posh. I've had them for years. Every holiday season I feel like I pull them out and I just use a few and I still have lots left. I love them. I'm also going to just randomly add little dabs of glue all over the background and add a scattering of these itty bitty gold stars. I love little stars. I love filling in the area, and I think that the gold really ties in to the gold of our sentiment. So here is that From Our Family to Yours that I'm stamping on some smooth white cardstock with the clear or embossing and watermark ink and heat embossing with antique gold embossing powder before die cutting with my favorite sentiment labels dies from Simon Says Stamp. And then we're going to pop that up with foam adhesive right underneath Merry Christmas. I do want to be really aware of where that foam goes because it does need to kind of straddle the loops in the S's in Christmas, and in order to do that, I don't want foam adhesive under those areas because it's not going to lay very nice. So I need to get my sentiment die cut first. I use this little metallic stand. You can kind of see it over there to the right of the camera. And I use that to hold these dies. I don't do it for very many dies, but I use my sentiment labels dies almost every time I create, anytime I need a sentiment strip. And so I just found that I was going to those all the time in my regular storage. So I simplified it and just placed those right on this little stand. And it makes it so easy to kind of grab and go. So here I am adjusting my foam adhesive. I want to make sure it's just fitting over those S's. That looks good. I love how it all flows together. And then let's finish filling in our card with some additional little gold stars here and there. And finally finishing with some Nuvo crystal drops in gold in the center of the smallest flowers. I decided that probably would be the best way to add a little gold accent to those flowers since they're so teeny tiny and I didn't have any gemstones quite that small. And that is it. I'm going to let that sit and completely dry, and our slimline card with the Crackle Christmas foliage is all done. Next up, we have some twinkly lights. Oh my goodness, you guys, I absolutely love this die set. You guys know I love die cutting. We are going to create an amazing little background here, kind of similar to the last card as far as the text background, but completely different look and feel. So I am going to go ahead and take an A2 masking stencil, and we are going to mask the blue area on our card. That's not a separate piece of paper. It totally could be if you wanted it to be. But then I'm going to take Cadette and Marine Simon Says Stamp inks, and we're going to ink a rectangle in the center of this A2 panel. This is going to give it the look of being matted on a separate piece of cardstock. So I'm going in with my lighter color first, the marine color, It's probably a little darker just because there's some blue on this blending brush. My blending brushes need a bit of a bath, but the last thing I inked with them were these Pawsitively saturated inks from Simon Says Stamp. If you've seen any of my other videos since the release of the new 15 colors, you will know that the blue colors are my absolute favorite from this release, just because I absolutely love the color blue, and I think these are amazing because they're more in the royal blue family instead of the fantastic aqua that they've already released. After I have blended these colors down the panel, I did remove my stencil. The reason being, I need to stamp this with my text background. So I need to place my background back in my MISTI. I kind of didn't realize I was going to do that until the last minute. And I also need to move this over. I need to leave enough room for my masking stencil. And why, you might ask, is I don't want that text to go all the way edge to edge of the card. Normally, I would stamp that right over the entire background, but we have masked this center piece. And so I'm just going to move that down in my MISTI a little bit. And I'm kind of fiddling and fussing with this quite a lot, to be honest, but that's okay. And then we're just going to kind of tape it down inside the MISTI before grabbing our hand lettered background that we're going to use to stamp over this. All right, let's try again. I want to make sure that this is lined up perfectly. That looks pretty good like that. Here is the beautiful text background. I love the script. It still had some ink on it, but that's totally fine. We're going to ink it up again and stamp that right on our blue ombre background. I love this. It's so, so pretty. Then I'm going to take my stencil and wash that off with some warm soap and water. I think actually I just used warm water. Came clean instantly, and there is our background. Now we're also going to use more sentiments from that winter flower stamp set, the same stamp set I used for the last card. Love this stamp set. We're going to join together the happiest of holidays phrase with wishing you the. So first, because I want those stamps to be close together, we are going to stamp Happiest of Holidays down near the bottom using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Right above that, we're going to stamp Wishing You the. So let's stamp that first. I love VersaFine Onyx because it's always super dark black. And then we're going to just line up our next greeting. You can also see I pre-die cut everything we are using here for our card. There's two different choices for the lights. I'm using the straighter string of lights. I die cut it 3 times, and then I die cut the little mini lights that layer on top from multiple colors of cardstock. There's also more of a twisty turny string of lights. I love that there's a couple of options here. So before I glue this down, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of just trim these up. They are a little bit longer. I love this because that means it's going to work for a landscape or a portrait style card. And then I'm going to just put glue mostly back behind the lights. And that's so I can trim up the ends here in a minute. And I did this because I want the lights to be in the center part of the card. I don't want a big area of string. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to snip those kind of even with our inked and stamped background panel. I'm going to do 3 strings of these kind of going across the top of the card. Again, we're just going to snip these a little bit. Going to add glue to the back and then tape that down in place. And then one more. And of course I did rainbow lights because I thought rainbow lights would show up so great against the bright blue of this background. Now once I have the 3 strings of lights, I want to take some nice sharp fine tip scissors and just kind of go along the sides and snip that even with my background. Since this isn't an actual layer, it's just a masked layer, I'm just kind of getting it close. And that cleans up the ends and makes it look so nice. Then I'm just going to add a little dab of glue. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick up each of my light bulbs and pop it in place. This makes it quick and easy. Yes, I do have quite a few leftover Christmas lights that I can totally use for another card. What I did for this is because if I just put these in a drawer, there's no way I would know what these went to. You know, when I eventually get around to using them, I slip them down in the die pocket with the die. That way, the next time I go to use this die set, maybe I need these lights again, and I already have this part of the die cutting done. So that's just an easy way to store those, or while you have everything out, go ahead and create more cards. Now, I felt like my Christmas lights needed to be finished with a layer of glossy accents. Don't you guys? Glossy accents always are the perfect finishing touch for Christmas lights. I am going to go ahead and apply that to the lights, even though I still have some embellishing to do. The reason being is I have some little confetti pieces that I want to layer on top, and the glossy accents will serve as an adhesive for those as well. And I want those to start drying because it is going to take a minute. Oh, I love how this looks already. So cute. I did add some snowflakes and stars to finish it off. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these special holiday release products from Simon Says Stamp. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. I want to give a special shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to join Patreon, click the link below in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Here is some additional Simon Says Stamp inspiration for you that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.